here at the beginning. You will be getting an email. This is not related to world building, but now that I have your attention, you will be getting flow this weekend. Two main things. Do not, if everybody can just not look at their computers for 1 second and just look at me, do not use your USC email. What did I just say, everybody? Why? Why did I say that? Because it's not going to work. That's the worst thing that could happen when you want something to happen. So, and the reason it's not going to work is because I don't know why, that people have firewalls or something. But the point is you need to figure out what personal email is okay to use, probably Gmail. If you didn't hear me just now and you did it anyway, it's possible you will get stuck in an internet rabbit hole and we're going to call customer service and I have to call my contact that got us the freebies. It's really annoying. Just get that one thing right. You're going to get a big email from Brooks with a long list of instructions that the simplest part of that is just don't use your USC email. Okay. The other really simple thing to pay attention to, it is a 3-month coupon. So let's enter a time machine and flash forward to when you guys are working on your final films. Okay. You do not want to be like in that, oh, my coupon expired and that last scene that I wanted to work on is now going to cost me a bunch of money. Okay. Like, so just think about, I think we're okay. You seem to be very confident that they could just do it right now, which might, but if anybody like is going to ask me for like a week extension, because we're at that point and you and your team have this amazing movie, I don't care if it's a few days late. I'm just saying, like, just give yourself that flexibility. So if that means that maybe you don't start your coupon until maybe Wednesday next week, Monday next week, just think about it. Again, I'm trying to empower you to get some really useful freebies. And I'd also say, like, look, I think some people in this room are in the space. People are getting free, like, unlimited credits on VO3. I know it's now like in the back step of Kling 3.0. Like, some people are just staying up till midnight or 3 in the morning, just making stuff, pumping their portfolios, building their reels. Like, this is an incredible access point. We're going to spend more time learning about it next week, but you will get that email, and just make those 2 choices, not your US email, and make sure you time it right.
Is that the doc with the codes on it?
This is an intake form. Sorry. And by the way, in the deck, one of the instructions is that you guys need to fill out an intake form. So part of working with Google, Brad, is that right? There's a little bit of like, they want feedback during this process. So this is the first feedback form where you guys are going to sort of tell them basic stuff about yourself.
Right. So part of the deal is they're giving you this free, super expensive subscription because they want your stuff. So at the end, you'll have to, the shorts you create with VO3 or with Google Ultra, you'll have to, you know, the class will collect them and send them to Google because they want to see what we're doing with the material.
And to the extent that they may also selectively promote your work, and like, right, they have a big following on the socials. So I think that's an opportunity. If anybody has a problem with that, you know, speak up and we can find alternative solutions, but it's free stuff.
$400 a person, so it's pretty cool.
And it's $750. It's $250 a month, you know, a plan that you guys are all getting for free. And then I'd also say the 11 Labs is about $88. I think we're doing okay in free stuff, guys. So when I say spend like $15 on Midjourney, I hope you can have your feelings. It's your money. Do whatever you want. Okay, so I want to just like talk a little bit about like world building in this space. These are a couple examples that I'll just start watching them. And if we really like them, we can keep watching them. I think, did anybody know about the Voyager record? Do you guys know about the story of the Voyager record? Like Carl Sagan threw a gold record into space and aliens someday will find music from planet Earth. And I think it's just a really great example of somebody that took that idea and built a world around it.
What's this one?
Oh, that one is a treat.
From Instagram. It's weird.
Some real alien
How
stuff.
do I do that?
They say there's only 2 copies in the entire galaxy.
I see. Still doesn't get full screen.
Hello from the children of planet Earth.
I'm just gonna. I want you guys to watch these on your own time. I just think it's such a cool example of just an idea. Again, if you guys haven't heard of that Carl Sagan thing, it's real. Like there's like a spaceship floating in space with a gold record from humans, and somebody just got to play with that thought experiment. And I also think one of the things I try to reiterate about what I love about this space is these are often films that wouldn't have been made anyway. Like so much of our process is getting funding, getting financing, or taking a risk, or borrowing somebody's money. Like I love how somebody just got to experiment with this idea in their head, and I think that's a little world they got to build. This is a filmmaker that we might get to meet over the course of this semester. His name is Matt Zine. I know him because he came up in Unscripted alongside. He did sold the Scientology show to A&E, which is about like Leah Remini and stuff. He is in my opinion, among the more advanced kind of real like just tinkerers, people really playing with the edge of the technology. This is an old film. This is like at least a year old. He just did a very big live stream with Grimes, and he's doing like all this really interesting stuff with her, kind of exploring the edges of this stuff. But I think this shows like his take on his very, very elaborate command of the tools. Obviously creating that VHS look. In this case, he's imagining this like not too distant future when we're about to get AGI. If you read today's essay, that this is a film about that too. This is like the night before we all got AGI, and this is like the last party that humans have where they all gave up together or something. But I think you can just see like really, really specific vision on like aesthetics, what people look like, what does fashion look like, what does culture look like. I think you should, and he's got a whole series of these that I just think it's a really interesting like experiment that somebody just gets to do with their own command of the tools. Obviously, he's imagining some future where Sam Altman's on a red carpet. But I think it's a very elaborate example of world building in terms of him imagining something that's in his head around this story. You guys should watch the film. And he's got a few of these films that all kind of play with this very like self-referential narrative of what's going on in the space. The other film that I think is a really just charming example of people that are running with this idea. There's this really, I think she's Singaporean. We had her on our kind of podcast for Machine Cinema. Her name is Nice Aunties is like the name that she's taken on for herself, because she started in the Sora Alpha program, and she just and she has a lot to say about this, that she loves like pointing the camera back at like the auntie-verse, which she's created, this idea of like aunties in her culture and just how maybe undervalued, or she can speak to it better than me, but it's also hyper imaginative, and it's really, really special in the way that she's taken this idea that's so surreal, and I'm not sure which planet this is even referencing, but there's a consistency to it, there's a point of view. And I kind of point to this, that like sometimes we're just doing what movies have done for a long time, or sometimes we're doing something that is uniquely possible when we have this much imagination at our fingertips. So so I think she's really special. I think and that's, again, this stuff might live more natively in social video. This might live more natively in short form, but I think it just shows you the degree that you can create. And when I say to you guys, like, do something impossible, like there's no way she could have done this with actors. There's no way she could have done this, without ridiculous budgets. But she got to imagine this stuff, create these images on tools like either Midjourney or others that have, as we'll see, an incredible capacity for imagination. And then she got to tell a story with it and build a consistent, coherent universe with it. So I think this stuff's really special, and we can go nuts on other artists like this, but she's wonderful. And I think she's even like built a whole like luxury brand around this idea. Like she's gotten a lot of attention, a bit of an early adopter narrative too, of someone that put themselves out there while this stuff was more taboo, and she's doing really well. So I think those are good examples of things that are possible. I always like to remind us that we are also inspired by our Hollywood legacy. Whether it's the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which is, early film cinema, like people got to invent this abstract expressionist environment, or our friend Guillermo del Toro, that hates everything we're talking about in this class, and just how incredible his ability is to create practical worlds. And Alex, you can probably correct me if I'm getting any of this wrong, but I do want to like acknowledge that this is a longer tradition of things that have captured imaginations in the film medium. Barbie is more than just grabbing that Barbie doll and making everything pink. I think Grace Helbig had an incredible vision of expressing that in narrative, and that those motifs showed up in so many other ways. Peter Jackson, I'm amazed at just the anger surrounding AI and just how much he was replacing the extras industry back in Lord of the Rings times. So, we were celebrating it, like, wow, it's so cool that I could do these scenes with thousands of soldiers. And when things were less heightened as they are now, that was a solution to be able to make that movie. And I think that whole scene was done with miniatures, if I'm not mistaken, Alex, the Helm's Deep scene. So again, a really good example of just the incredible dream factory at work. How are these things allowing us to take on literally, iconic fantasy narratives? Wizard of Oz, clearly a beautifully coherent universe with a lot of imagination. The first film to even bring us colored versions of that. So again, I point this back to like this sort of magic trick of being able to imagine things. Those things used to cost a lot more money. They used to require a lot of resources. I think what Nice Aunties did and what these guys are doing, for better or for worse, are operating in a different set of economics. We might also obsess over the up conversion and whether the upscaling is yet there, and that is a degree that we could talk about in this class. But the actual imagination at play is amazing. And I always think Spider-Verse is kind of like a very native film to thinking about even how within the story, that style shift, the way that you can imagine the coherent narrative of Spider-Man and the multiverse permission slip to then just go crazy with what the world building and its exponents can do there. So I just want us to not just think about the bleeding edge of the space, but also remember that this is the muscle that we've been flexing. It's just now you can do it in a much more iterative setting. So I'm gonna try to get through all this today. We're gonna look at Midjourney, which in spite of it being not as important as Nano Banana Pro, and I'm gonna say Nano Banana Pro and Seedream for two reasons, because and Flux 2.0, they're all three are available in free pick. We're gonna see they're all kind of doing the same thing. Nano Banana Pro is still special for different reasons, but that has very much become the setting for world building. Midjourney is special because of how much control you get over aesthetics and personalization. We're going to see that in a minute. So again, that might not matter as much. So someone like Lewis, like maybe you're in full stream that some of these things are details, but if you start to obsess over, I actually wanted that sort of Rembrandt look or whatever, like that's something that you really can create. And sort of have more control as you get into the world building stage. And then if we have time, there's a tool called World Labs. Have you guys heard of that tool? So World Labs is a very noisy tool from the end of last year. It's almost intentionally for other utilities, but it has been applied to this type of step of world building because you're basically creating 3D sets that you can then screen grab your way into creating like ways that you can sort of build your keyframes. But all of this sort of adds up to the ability to really create a lot with your fingertips. We're at what, 10:15? Should we pause now before I keep going? Or do you think this is a good, because now I'm going to go into tutorial mode.
I mean, if you want to take a stopping point, you can.
Okay, maybe this is bathroom break time, because then the rest of today is going to be really diving in. And the sooner I get done with this, and I'd even encourage you guys, you have access to the same deck. If anybody is starting to just want to play, like go for it. Just like keep up with me as I'm walking you through it. But let's do 5-minute bathroom break, and we'll get into Midjourney.
We'll come back at 10:22.
All right, thanks everybody.
Yeah.
Sorry to get your name wrong. Sorry about that. I don't know why I heard Max. I'm very wrong, obviously.
I have a question.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Yesterday, at the beginning, I want to try the film. I do the lookbook, but I get one trouble. So I generate the scene first, and I get what I want, the scene, and also the starting frame. I think it's because it's just a steady shot. I think that will be easy, and the prompt I give is, I think it's simple. The little girl is humming Jingle Bell, and the bigger sister look at her and say her name, and then she turn to her. But in the next few times, it keep having one problem, is that the younger girl turn to her sister earlier than
I'll just say this: you're like a week or two ahead of us right now, and I applaud you to be as excited about this.
Yeah.
I would just say I think you're either going to find that this works for you.
Yeah.
But if you're starting to have these types of questions, it's because you're skipping the stuff that we're trying to learn.
Okay.
And again, then you'll find your balance.
Yeah.
And then once you're like, oh, that's how I establish my look. Oh, that's how I establish all the camera angles I want. Then you'll at least know how you could have built it up in pieces.
Yeah.
This is just skipping all these steps. And that's
Okay.
fine.
Yeah.
If you like it and if you're happy with the results, but if you're getting frustrated with the results, it's because you're not learning this other stuff.
Okay.
So I would just say maybe let's run as fast as you can. I want you to make
Yeah.
all the things you want to make, but I'm just saying it's hard for me to sort of reference what you should be doing when we
Yeah.
haven't covered it in class yet.
Okay. Okay.
But I would say maybe my intention is that in the next 3 or 4 weeks, we will have gotten through fundamentals. And then in some ways, everything's available to you. And then after that, we're going to start like saying, how do we advance our techniques?
Yeah.
Again, 3.0 is amazing. It's just, I'm nervous.
I think
Conversation.
All right, whatever. I don't say anything.
But yeah. We don't.
Great. Yeah, you don't have to worry about that stuff.
Oh, no, I think
Thank you,
how
though.
he doesn't see himself on the recording, right? Or it's
Who doesn't himself?
like Lewis doesn't see himself on the recording. Kind of thing. It's just better for everyone.
All right,
Yeah.
okay. I mean, okay. All right, everybody, let's jump in. Yep. If you guys can hear me, clap once. If you can still hear me, clap twice. Okay, great. That still works. Summer camp. It's the best. All right. So some of you may have heard of Midjourney, possibly because they're getting sued by a lot of people, which might be a reason to ignore this, and maybe that doesn't matter to you. They also got, I don't know, did they get acquired by Meta, Gowrie? Or they just have a big deal with Meta? I don't know. They have a big deal with Meta, which you could cynically say is how they're going to pay all their legal bills, which depends on how you look at these stories. But if you really follow like Caleb at Curious Refuge or any, people still often start their like, here's how I make this by saying I took a Midjourney image. And I think that until that goes away, I agree that it's still a very special place to imagine, again, this phase of your intention, your directorial vision. You could skip everything I'm about to show you, but I just want you to be aware of it because I think it's really useful. So Midjourney is an image model. I'm just going to kind of give you a tour of this. There's the create tool here, which is basically where you do all your work. You create prompts up here. There's these sliders here. If you guys have used it, these are settings, right? So you can set your aspect ratio, what they call image size. So we want to do 16:9 here.
Full screen with tabs so the people in the back can see.
This? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the settings of stylization, which is another way of saying creativity. So as you try something, and we're going to walk through this now, you can sort of get a first stab at something. Yeah, I'm sorry. It just does all this stuff for me. People are just going to have to deal with it.
Well,
Sorry.
here, just drag the window up
Yeah.
bigger than.
Okay.
Then, yeah, there you go.
So I don't know. What's somebody want to see a picture of? Just let's go improv comedy. Does anybody have anything on their minds? Colton, what's on your mind? Anything? A pig doing what? I did a pig last week too. Everybody loves pigs. But a pig doing what? Is it a pig person or is it an actual pig or? Okay. A person with a pig head playing with a soccer ball. Okay. Soccer ball. Okay. All right. So this is like just, and it's a good practice to, I think, in Midjourney, start small and then build your prompts. And this is a very different from what you guys have probably started to get used to with Nano Banana. Nano Banana Pro and other models that are increasingly conversational. They're increasingly just like, they just know what you're talking about. Midjourney is still a place where it does have a slightly more structured prompt approach, which you don't have to obsess over. In the deck, I did give you guys a link to a YouTube video that is worth watching at least at 2x speed of just like basic Midjourney prompting techniques. But I think you can just get a quick taste. I just said person with a pig head playing with a soccer ball, just to kind of show you the degree of imagination. Let me just do that in Nano Banana Pro, which is interesting. Nano Banana Pro is great. Person with a pig head playing with a soccer ball. Okay, so we'll just compare and contrast why I think it's interesting to be in Midjourney. While we're here, just to start pointing out these sliders. So the sliders come up. Let's say I like that imagination, but I kind of want it to go bananas. I want it to go really strange. I can dial this up and down, and this is just another way of saying like, get weirder, like do something more interesting. So I'm gonna do it again. And then if I want to skip the process of having to type prompts over and over, you'll see these things start to come up. You see if I just roll my cursor, it says use text. Okay, that saves me the trouble of having to type things. Here's my settings. I'm just gonna go again. Okay, and I think one thing you're noticing, you see this clouding effect? This is diffusion. Okay, we talked a little bit about technologically. It's the idea that the way the technology is working is it's starting with a cloud, and then the information just keeps throwing this prompt information until it creates this refined image. So you're kind of watching it in real time. So you can already start to compare the differences between those two different degrees of what it calls stylization. Okay, and you do kind of have to manually pull this up and down as you want to try stuff. I don't really know what the difference between weirdness and variety are, but these are just different things you can play with. And I'm throwing this at you because sometimes, look, if your film is just hyper realistic, it's just cops in a police station that look like regular humans, some of this stuff might not have as much utility. But as you get into anything that's fantastical, like what you're working with, Leon, if you're trying to really push into sort of unusual worlds like nice aunties, these are tools that get you to, I think for a lot of people, Midjourney was like their gateway into AI, because you'll just get into it and then suddenly it's 4 a.m. and you've just been like just in imagination land, and it's incredible how much it can do. So here I'm just going to reuse the prompt, and now I've dialed up that what it calls weirdness. And I say this because this is where you allow yourself to kind of discover, what am I looking for? What am I inspired by? As much as you have your own intention, sometimes people are really discovering the power of just having a partner like Midjourney to throw ideas at you. And you can see here now we're really getting strange. That's not even a pig person. You just start to get into like, maybe this is a slippery slope into like AI slop. You can start to see where that stuff's coming from. But I'm just showing you that these are just sliders. These are just things that go up and down. There's variety. So I encourage you guys to allow yourself to play. Midjourney, let's see, I'm just going to show you the pricing here in case everybody is interested. What is the account settings, manage subscription? What does it cost these days? So again, as always, don't get suckered by these amazing tool companies that get you to pay for a year of billing. Always select monthly. And then that's, if you want to play with this for $10, I think you'll get a lot out of it. And you'll find out whether or not you like it. And then when you run out of credits, you'll decide to spend more. So I would really encourage people that like this degree of imagination to allow themselves to try. So again, those are the sliders that go up and down. And that's where you get to experiment with your imagery and what your imagination likes. The other things that are here is this model section. In general, just stay in 7. But I do want to point to this one called Niji. Okay, has anybody heard of Niji? Okay, is anybody a big fan of anime? Okay, so this is kind of like their magic anime button. So here we can take the exact same prompt. Let's leave actually I just went ahead and made it, but let's do the exact same prompt, make sure that these are up here. Yeah, so basically the same settings. And you'll see that it has a very powerful tool for people that are really interested in creating like more anime style. This is that kind of magic tool for that. We'll see how it comes out. Let's go back to this is what, Nana Banana Pro gave us, a kind of normal looking guy playing soccer. Maybe this is what you're looking for. Maybe you want, but I'm just showing you the extreme difference of how much more imaginative Midjourney is as you start to create a world. Now, what Midjourney does not do is all of these things we've been talking about, like, camera angles and consistency. Midjourney is much more frustrating on that kind of stuff. So treat this as your aesthetic palette. This is where you're going to kind of perhaps create your style, your aesthetics, right? So we'll go back to Midjourney. Some of the other, this is that anime look. You can start to see it's almost done generating. Gives you a sense. Worth noting that in Midjourney, it does have a video generation thing. You could just make some really cool, there's no audio, there's very limited controls here. Some people are doing really awesome stuff on social video, putting out Midjourney. You could just stay here and make cool videos. You're not going to get anywhere near the control. It is a very quick way to burn through all your Midjourney credits. So if you're just here for images, if you just accidentally generated a bunch of videos, like, you're going to be done. So again, I'm trying to remind you how you're minding your own money. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how do you personalize. And this is really the moat. When we talk about why Midjourney is probably not going anywhere for a little while, it's this section over here on aesthetics. You see that they've even created a whole category because they're kind of getting the memo that this is what's special. They're not going to compete with Nana Banana Pro for the way it's being applied, but they will compete here. And this is frankly where there's a slipperier slope to like marketing and advertising and kind of brand work, because you can see how this really creates really interesting dynamic imageries for things that don't have to tell big long stories. So when I go to personalize, for someone who's a real power user of Midjourney, you are going to be invited to this journey here. So I'm going to, right now it's off. When I turn it back on, what that means is that now you see this global V7 profile. Okay, that's something that I've generated as my look. Okay, so when I go back to a person with a pig head playing with a soccer ball, now this red key up here is red, meaning it's selected. And when I give it a shot, it's going to have a product of something that I've spent a lot of time telling it, this is my personalized setting. Okay, so we'll see what that looks like. What does that mean? So when I click on this, your profile, and I can create multiple profiles. So imagine you're someone at an agency and one of your clients really loves like black and white film noir stuff. Your other client really likes super interesting like 70s style photorealism. Your other client likes anime. This is where you can create multiple profiles for those different looks. It's not just a style reference. It's actually something way more trained, so to speak. And the way you train it is when I click on it, I just play this game. I literally A/B test my way through images. So this comes up, and right now you can see I've done this 369 times. You see those rankings? What that means is I'm just literally either I'm clicking on these, or 1 for left, 2 for right, 3 to skip. So I would say if anybody really wants to go nuts on this, don't just click on stuff randomly. Like, I don't really care about stuff that looks like this. I'm going to skip it. Okay. I'm going to keep going. Oh, I really like stuff like this. This is what I'm going for. So I'm literally going to tell it as many times as possible. This is what I'm going for. This is what I'm going for. And to somebody, that becomes a personalization setting. So when we look at my pig head, this is, allegedly my look. And you can see that that looks very different than these other examples we did here. That has its own look. Okay, I went for like this. Actually, the top right's really confusing. My look is more like photographic documentary style. So you can see the other 3 kind of do that. So that's a lot of work, right? Like, that sounds like, wow, I have to sit there at 3 in the morning clicking through. You might do that. The other thing that you could do is this thing called mood boards. Okay, so has anybody ever used a mood board, like in a creative setting? What does that look like? What do you do? What does it mean when you do a mood board? Charlie,
just like assemble a bunch of images to kind of show the visual direction of.
Where did you get those images?
Like Shot Deck or Pinterest or
The internet.
yeah,
Sometimes. Okay. And Lauren, does that sound about right? Is that how you use mood boards?
Yeah, so I'll walk around and take photos.
Right. Okay. You might even go into a room like this and sit with your team and put all those images up on a wall and say, guys, this is what we're going for. This is our palette. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. I'm a director, and this is the look of my film. Okay, literally the exact same thing. So here, as you can see, Midjourney lets you create multiple mood boards. Okay, you see this one down here? These are like origami animals. Okay, and I just found these on the internet, just pictures of like origami animals. I loaded them up. Okay, these are all the ones that I just grabbed off the internet as references. And then now I have that as a look, and I can select it, right? And now that's my personalization setting. And when I go back to create, and I want to use this amazing pig story, this time it's going to have that as a setting. Okay, and now that's going to be the consistent look, aesthetic vibe that I'm going for. Okay, and you can see the way it shows up here. You see this mood board number 1. That's one of the inputs. That's one of the things that it's telling itself is what we're going for here. So now I've been able to sort of define a look based on what I'm going for. And then within my prompt and within what I want to do here, I can start creating my own world where people look like origami and they're pigs. Okay. Yeah, actually, I always love coming back to this one. It worked really well. I should just make a whole movie out of these. So this is, again, really intuitive, right? Like, you guys do this anyway. When you talk to your teams, you're like, this. And again, we'll stay away from referencing people like David Fincher. Just stuff you found on the internet. You're just telling it, I'm going for something like this. And again, talk to your lawyers if Midjourney is problematic. I'm just showing you the tool here that you can at least start your creative previs process. Let's call it that, minimally. Samuel.
Oh yeah, 2 questions. One, are people like uploading their own work that they take in the real world and using that as like a mood board to create things that already look like their actual real world look?
I mean, in this mood board setting, you can do whatever you want. So like, let's say I'm here and I want to continue this. I can upload images. You can add from a link, or I can add from a gallery, which means I'm pulling it from my own Midjourney experience. Again, for people that are really anxious about IP and are really anxious about their own beautiful artwork that they don't want anybody in the internet to ever interact with, I'd tell you to be similarly anxious about using Instagram, but in this setting, then don't do it. I'm just saying this is the tool setting that they've offered for you.
And then the second question is, so once you generate the image in Midjourney, can you just very briefly walk through like what your next step might be to actually apply it?
Yeah. That's where we're going. That's because we're going to put this into a workflow with Nanobanana Pro. That's where we're going. Everybody's so. Do I go too slow? I actually think I'm really caffeinated, but like, you guys really want to jump 3 steps ahead. So that's mood boards, and I'm just pointing at it because I think it's a really intuitive way to skip that personalization feature. Leanne.
Actually pulling things from the internet. Like, I like the vibe of this picture, but vibe is a very abstract idea. Like
Visual vibe.
That I'm actually directing them to pay attention to. Like,
Again, this is a little bit of trial and error. This is like a tool that you're either going to like the results of it or not. That's why I'm pointing this to you. I think that worked really well, but I just found a bunch of random origami pictures, and now I have my pig version. So again, you're going to go through trial and error. That's why on that personalization setting, which is the most refined version, I encourage you not just to click on randomly, like, be selective. I only like the black and white ones. And then that's going to probably give you a very specific energy, but what is it really doing? What data is it scraping specifically? I mean, we're in a little bit of black box land on what is it really doing. The question is do you like the result? And if you don't, and it's frustrating, don't do it. I mean, there's other ways to get to reference level, but this is a very specific aesthetics reference. And I position this inside of world building, that before you're getting the specifics of geometry, camera angles, swooping, rotating cameras, all these fun things, it's like, what does the world look like? You know, what is the texture of that world? What is the saturation levels of that world? What is the fantastic imagery of that world? And I think this gets you there. The other thing that's kind of clever is this thing called Style Creator. So let's say we're here and I want to play with, I don't know, let's pick a more normal looking pig. Let's say we're starting with this guy. So within this, I think it's use style. Where do they put it? Does it go straight here? Okay, so I start. Yep. So you go to Style Creator. This is like, I think this is experimental. This may or not make sense to anybody, but it's, again, take that same idea of you're just giving it, here's what I like, here's what I like. You're giving it a sense of your taste, and you just start clicking on stuff. And again, try to be consistent in your vision. Don't be random. Like maybe I'm like, wow, that's actually kind of cool. This kind of like dark lighting thing. I'm going to say, okay, I like that. I like this. I'm going to keep scrolling. Ooh, I like that. Okay, and again, these are just lighting points. So to your point, Leon, like it's just kind of going off of like a visual aesthetic. On the right, you see how it's starting to fill this like little gas tank of inspiration. So I'm just kind of like telling it, yeah, I kind of like this. And you can see it's starting to like fine tune a little bit as I scroll through. It's getting a little bit more consistent on the things it's throwing at me. And then it's like, wait, what about this? Are you sure? And I'm like, no, I kind of like this. It's a really interesting technology. And I'm almost showing it to you. This could be totally irrelevant, but just look how it's talking to you of what are you into? Like where are you going with this? And it's just starting to like walk me through possibilities. And as I get through this and then settle on something that speaks to me, you know, maybe, oh, K-pop Demon Hunters, look, you know, oh, that guy. And I'm just going to fill up this little gas tank of what I'm going for. Maybe a little, pull it back a little bit. So now we're down here. Sorry, this is a new feature that even I'm starting to scroll. And then now it starts to give me, okay, if that's the look you're going for, here's your pig guy. You see that? So it's kind of interesting. Again, this may or may not be useful to you. Maybe this is more for advertising and doing a quick Monster Energy drink ad, which, you know, Lewis is showing just how much money we can all make doing that. But I'm just saying, like, kind of interesting as a different way to interact with your own instinct and creativity. That's why I think Midjourney is a real discovery tool sometimes. Like sometimes you have it in your head, I'm a director, I don't need any input. I think this is an interesting place to go find your inspiration. So those are the personalization settings. I said that this is a place for very kind of structured prompting. They did add a feature that again, treat this as like a brainstorming partner. I'm gonna turn personalization off. And you see this little like lightning bolt here? Okay, and then you see this kind of chat window here. This is opening up something else. This is another feature. I'm not really sure what I'm going for, but I'm trying to get like a movie with like a guy who has a pig head, but he likes to play soccer a lot. Maybe he's in Germany. Is it the 80s Germany? I'm not sure. So you see, I'm just talking to it. Please, yeah, there we go. And then what it does is it does the work to then structure that for me. And then it just starts to be my brainstorming partner. Okay, that's that conversational mode and draft mode. And it's basically becomes sort of like an inspiration partner, you know, that you can sort of just like explore your style, explore your aesthetic. And then and you can see that it just took my rambling mess of like a comment and it turned it into a Midjourney prompt that it likes. And like, okay, here we are. All right, I got Pighead Man and I'm in some version of 1980s Germany. And now I'm starting to make a movie. Okay. So I'm just kind of pointing this to you like that this is a little bit of like blank page kind of tool. Like how do we sort of break through sometimes where are we trying to go with stuff? And I think that this is why I love Midjourney, is it is this type of creative partner. Nano Banana Pro is basically just going to start like responding to what you told it to. This kind of throws you in directions. Go ahead.
Sorry, can you show us how to access the chat mode?
It's this red thing. It's these two things that are activated.
Maybe I'll come up.
Yeah. So, and maybe it's when you pay for it. I'm not sure. But it is this draft mode and this conversational mode. I don't think I have. Maybe it is a plan. I'd be surprised. It seems like a pretty useful tool. But that is what it did. Again, to the extent that you don't need it. I mean, it just added as a feature, but I do think it's really cool. Like, I mean, like this gets me going on world building. There is, in theory, edit features on Midjourney. If you go to organize, these are all the things. This is where now we're starting to understand what Nano Banana Pro probably does better. Here, when I select my picture, you see this edit button. Does everybody see that? So this allows us to then start doing stuff. One principle, outpainting. Okay, so right now I'm just kind of minimizing it, but all this like gray checkerboard, this is now space that it will imagine what's over there. Okay. Come on. I think, oh, there we go. It's doing it. So this is called outpainting, which means that it's painting beyond the edge of the frame, right? So we're going to see what it looks like when I just minimize. Yeah, here it goes. It added a tree. Okay, I could have also told it to add a tree. I just kind of hit go. So you're just watching it imagine what might be over there. But that's called outpainting. And you can do that much more intentionally when you have like an idea of what's missing from the frame. Let's say we like this picture. Okay, now I'm going to edit it again. Okay, I'm going to select this area. Okay. You know, vampire bat. Okay, submit edit. This is called in-painting. So it's kind of the reverse. It's that, and it's kind of what Photoshopping used to be, but we're doing this with generative technology. And actually, we can spend time with Photoshop. Photoshop has its own kind of applications of these, and we'll see how it does. I'd say I historically get frustrated with this magic trick, but let's see. Yeah, it didn't do it. I think Nano Banana does a better job. Let me try one more time. Let's do this. We're selecting it. Let's try one more time. Insert. Maybe something else. What should we insert?
A cloud.
A cloud. A cloud made out of, let's make it interesting, oranges. Let's see. Let's see if that does a better job. In theory, that's the premise. I'd say I wouldn't use this too much. I'm just showing it to you. If you're about to spend $10, you should play around with these. So we talked about chat. We talked about edit. That's kind of the broad strokes. I think the thing that I hope you got a taste of is how imaginative it can be and how much this can be a tool. You can see it's kind of doing a shit job on editing.
Well, because you're on erase mode.
But usually that then selects an area. Maybe I'll try one time. What would you do differently?
Scroll down, I think there was something. I saw something.
This is a restore? Maybe smart select. Maybe you're right. Let's see. No, that's just selecting an area. Restore, see that? Oh, that's true. That's not doing it either. Brush size. Anyway, I actually don't love this feature. I wouldn't spend a lot of time with it, but in theory, the outpainting, you see how that works. I've gotten mixed results on this before.
Nano Banana works way better.
Nano Banana is way better. Any questions about Midjourney? I just wanted you guys to be exposed to it because I do think for people that have very fantastical imagery, I personally think these trends in Kling and VO3, I think they're all just starting to look like regular movies, which maybe is important. Maybe we all want to make regular movies. I get more excited seeing things that were out of this world and imaginative. And I think Midjourney is still one of these places where those things are hatched. But that's just my opinion. Does anybody have questions about Midjourney that we ran through? Leon might have a question. Are you ever sneezing? Or sorry.
Because this image, is it possible to generate like a 3D dimension, like depth of background in here? Like, is there
So what's in your head? Sorry.
I don't know, like something within the style of that.
Something inside what? Yeah.
Like if you tell it to in-painting or out-painting, you can do that, but how about like 3-dimensional?
Yeah, so now we're at the limits of Midjourney. So in Nano Banana Pro, we start to say, I want to change this image. It's a much harder to modify an image. Here, it's really just in painting and out painting. Actually, I'm realizing one thing I did skip over, just basic functionality. So you see this little landscape button up here in the top left? Does everybody see that? Okay, when I open that up, that does a few things. That allows me to start interacting with images. So far, we've been text to imaging, right? Now I can use images. So let's say I like this character. What's this funny guy with a mustache? So I can drag him. Let's see, hold on. Let's try this again. And the functionality used to be I could just drag it out, drag.
Organized mode, not create mode. I
know it didn't work with just now. This is one feature that's kind of interesting. Sometimes when you're looking at an image and you're like, how do I describe that? It's offering you this thing that I can drag it down into here. And that's giving me a way to sort of understand what it's doing. So this is just a way to start getting inside the machine. You see all these text blocks? This is giving me a way to prompt that image. It's a little bit interesting. Where's that feature that I can just drag an image up? It used to be here. Let me show you Explore page, actually. The other thing, just while we're talking about styles. These are all videos. Let's talk about images. This is another great way to just get inspiration. Just go to the Explore page. Any one of these images, they're there to obviously sell, like, look how exciting Midjourney is. But let's say you settle on this. You're like, wait, that's actually kind of cool. I kind of want a movie that looks like that. I can click on that. And then over here, sorry, where'd it go? I can grab the style. Does that work? Nope. I think they changed the functionality in this. Do you remember how to do this, where you can just pull the style reference off of it?
Wait here. So get out of it and then just drag it up to the top. Yours looks different.
I know they changed this a little bit.
Explore. Wait, look, I'm in Explore tab and look, I just drag it up.
Oh, it's because I'm in this stupid conversational mode. That's why
Oh.
it's been doing all this dumb stuff. Sorry, guys. All right, let me try this again. We're going to go here.
You're still in conversational mode in that tab.
God, that's why. So this is Midjourney isn't the best UI, but they try cool stuff. All right, let's try this again. So I'm going to go here. Let's say I like this image. Okay, that's what I was trying to show you. So once you get out of conversational mode, it opens this up. I can literally just drag an image up, and it gives me these 4 different things. I can literally go to starting frame, which means we're about to make a video. Your choice if you want to burn through your credits. I can also use this as an image reference. I can use this as a style reference, and I can use this as an omni reference. We talked a little bit about this last week. If I like this character, this guy, let's say this is my guy, I can drag him into omni reference, and then this becomes a version of character consistency. So now that I've created a character, this slider here, I can sort of modify the results a little bit and eventually start to do a little bit of the type of thing that Nano Banana Pro is going to do a better job of. This is one of the more interesting features. We talked a little bit about this last week. Let's say I just really like this image as a style reference, that I spent a lot of time really falling in love with this look right here. So I can drag this into your style. That's not an omni reference. This is just a style reference. And I can say, Little House on the Prairie. And it's just going to reference this as a style. Okay, so I'm just using this as a style reference. Let's see if it works. But the point is that this is another way to talk to the tool. You can use these image references to be literal characters sometimes, or a look. In this case, I'm using it as a look, right? So the guy's gone. Like, that guy with the funny mustache is no longer in my image. But that aesthetic, that sort of painterly look, the color palette, I then was able to say, I kind of like this look over here. Can you just apply that over here? Okay. So that's another way to use Midjourney. Again, just think about the flow state of, like, I'm just trying to find my aesthetic. I'm trying to find my look. Go ahead, Leon.
Do the mood board and style for my character, I can just apply it to, like, the landscape and other elements.
The mood board is another way to just cut to the chase and say, I'm going for this. I'm saying this is another way to define your look, that I can just grab an image and I can just drag it in here and make it my style reference. You see that?
Yes, my question is, how does it translate the style from character to other elements of the world that I'm building?
So it's funny. I could use that same character. So let's go back. Let's just grab one of these funny guys. I could use him as a style reference, as an omni. I can drag him in as an omni reference, which makes him a character. Step 1. I can drag him. Whoops, I didn't want to go over here. I'm going to drag him in. Oh wait, I hate it when it does that. So you got to select images. I'm going to drag him into omni. So now he's a character. I'm going to say that it's also a style reference. And now I'm going to say Pigman working on a farm. Okay, so I'm going to have the same character, but now it's going to be a different scene. Okay, but it's going to have that aesthetic. So again, it's just a very different tool. Like Nano, this is a tool that is obsessed with aesthetics and style in a way that Nano Banana Pro is obsessed with worlds and consistency and frankly things that are more related to storytelling. But again, I just wanted to spend a little bit of time just getting you guys hopefully a little bit interested in the way that you can really create your own aesthetic. So here it is. I've been able to have the consistent character, but I've also kept the look. The style is retained, right? Does that make sense? And again, it's their interface. Again, these tools speak different languages. I'm just showing you broad strokes what language this speaks. Okay, I think that's enough Midjourney. But actually, I wanted to show that style thing. So this was the thing I got hung up on. So here, when I select this image, do I just pull it up here?
Just drag and drop.
No, I wanted to grab this. Like, there's like a style code.
Oh, use style at the bottom right.
Use style.
Yeah.
Okay, so it drops. It used to have a code. That's why.
The code will show up in the actual output,
Yeah,
but it
okay.
just uses the UI.
Okay, so they've evolved this a bit, and Brooks is smarter than me. So let's say I'm just like, I'm really starting from zero. I think I was just trying to show you this workflow, and I landed on the first tab, which is the Explore page. I can just scroll through this and find inspiration. Let's say I really like this look here. I really want this like fantasy look. I select it, and I can pull up the prompt. I can borrow the prompt, which is right there, and I can just click on this, and that populates the context page. I can populate the style. Okay, and you can see that it just dropped it right in here. And now I can say, you know, race car track in the 1940s. Okay, and you'll see that now it's going to retain that style. Okay, where did it just keeps it as a? It used to give it a number. That's interesting.
If you click use text, it'll give it a number still.
No, it's not doing it.
No, at the bottom. If you click use text, the bottom right.
Oh, just use the whole thing.
Yeah.
No, it's still, it just uses it as an image now. There used to be a number there.
Yeah, there was a style.
Yeah,
thing.
there used to be like a long code, like a number, but now they're just speaking visually. So they're just referencing the image. But you can, sorry? It used to be sref. That's why I think they've cleaned it up to probably make it less
I feel like I
techie.
sometimes still see it now, but it's like rare.
Yeah, but you can see that now they're saying, okay, you've chosen this as your styled reference, and I picked that fantasy sort of fiction look, and now I have this cool race car track scene. And that's just by starting at Explore page. Again, they also want to sell you on their videos. So if you land here and everything's moving, hop over to images. Actually, now I'm remembering styles. This is the page. Yeah, there's the sref.
Oh,
Okay, so you can be literally just speak visually in terms of images, like what we just did, where I can select this tiger, select the style, and now that shows up as the style reference. Or I can, you see this third tab right here, styles. Okay, this is srefs. This is actually a little bit more specific. So let's say I really like this weird like hand-drawn look. You can see that I can click on that, and there's the sref. Does everybody see that? So sref style reference. So this is like a number code. So then that's even more kind of specific. So let's see if I do the same race car track in the 1950s, 40s. This is going to now borrow that sref. You see how now it shows up in the prompt right here on the right. And now it's a totally different image. And it's the sref that did all the work. The words are exactly the same. And I kind of want you guys to see that apples with apples. Like the words are exactly the same. The power of the tool is interacting with that one bit of code, that one bit of information, just that word sref, because it's referencing data inside of itself, right? And I don't know what that image is, but it's apparently what that would be. So really big speed run to Midjourney. There's people that spend their entire kind of like advertising careers mastering this. It is not hard to find on the internet if somebody's really passionate about this, and I'm also happy to give you more resources. But I wanted to at least start here. So what do we do next? Let's take a look at how this enters a workflow to Samuel's question of what do we do next? So as you find a style, like let's say one of those things really settled as like the look of your world, just like that weird racetrack, I was able to say, I'm going for this style. Okay, as you start to find a character, like what we did last week, that we started creating a character in these types of tools. So we now enter what is really special that came out last year. I put all of these in the deck for you guys. This is a great LinkedIn piece that are really great woman to follow, Kulan Dav. She does really great content. Apparently she's a creative inside of Google. This is a great guide that she put together of just all the different overviews of the model, how it works, all of its special sauces. I encourage you guys to look at these things. I think it's a really great way to see what it does, even way beyond the use case of filmmaking. This is a guide that Google put together. This is their X page, but this is their complete guide to Nano Banana Pro. This was last year, and it's just got a lot of resources. Again, this isn't the deck that everybody has access to. There's also just a really quick a breeze through the way that people talk about this tool. Again, this was like, November last year, and this was like everybody losing their minds back then. And again, forgive the shit posters of Twitter. These are just where people post this stuff. But this is just a really good example of the character consistency stuff. You have a picture of this guy, and I can start putting him anywhere. Okay, so take that character that you spent a lot of time creating in Midjourney. Now you're going to put them wherever you want. Okay, and this is like going to be your prompting. People are creating house blueprints, which is interesting if you want to go into architecture. You can start to do interior design. You can just take an empty room. I've played this game with my daughter. It's super fun, where we just give her like an empty bedroom, and I'm like, all right, what kind of a bed do you want? What kind of wallpaper do you want? What kind of carpet do you want? And you just start filling it. And it's amazing how it retains the geometry of the room, the lighting, everything stays the same. And you can then make a little video and pretend like she'll ever have that room. This is a very interesting way to think about your set design. Imagine that you've now created that campfire scene that you really spent a lot of time creating with style and aesthetics in Midjourney, but now I'm going to start populating it, okay, without having to constantly reprompt the light in the sky or the type of fire that's burning. I can start deciding what kind of tents I'm putting in here. I can start really populating the scene almost like a Lego set, right? This is an example of that. For people that are looking at this, this is how easy it is to generate advertising content. I think Lewis gave us a taste of that. This is something that we're going to spend a little bit more time next week. Some of you have already seen it in that variations tool inside of FreePic, but its ability to take one image and then create multiple angles of it, that's really useful for our directors. We're going to spend more time on that. I think this is really clever. For anybody that thinks they're making documentaries too, this is a really interesting thing that it can make infographics. I think I started making some of these last night. Let's see. This one's pretty fun. I did this last night for you guys. So you can prompt it, show me all the inner parts of a Rolex watch. And that's just a prompt. I just said, look at all the information it pulls up. Again, this is the power of something that is inside of a language model. That it's not just Midjourney interacting with aesthetics and diffusion. It's saying, I said, give me a general assembly diagram of a Rolex watch. That's all I said. And then it pulled up these things as if it's doing deep research. And then it created this image, right? And then I could have probably spent more time in this kind of magic tricks all over the internet. Then I said, okay, give me the final watch that's completed. And then it then creates, you can create that assembly. I'd say that's a B-. There's a ton of these of people that are doing exploding IKEA boxes, that start off as a brown box, but then turns into a whole room, but all the elements kind of fly out of that box. So this type of thinking is what Nano Banana can do uniquely. And now we're entering a totally different type of image model that has access to the brain of an LLM in a way that Midjourney is not interacting with that. And it has the ability to reason and sort of think about what are you really talking about. That's why I can speak to it conversationally. I could just say, I'm kind of going for this. And eventually, as these tools develop a memory for you, it might even be more personal than that. Looking at these other applications, that's kind of what this Ethan Malik post is that he was able to just give me a diagram of something, which again is kind of interesting for documentaries. This shows you the localization power. This is, I think it might even be a real picture of something in New York City, and he just said, put it in Japan, and it can do the work of thinking about what does signage look like in Japan. It can figure out what do cars look like there, what does a street scene look like. So it's doing that type of creative partner to you as an image model. So again, as you can see, very different from what Midjourney does. I think you guys can already see the big difference. And again, you might just jump straight to Nano Banana Pro. You might be perfectly happy to enter this type of headspace. I just wanted you to see the two kind of key tools that people are thinking about. Here's multiple angles. We're going to spend a lot of time with that. Details that I think are worth paying attention to. One of the things that Nano Banana Pro is really good at is also really nailing skin texture and skin realism. A lot of people complain about the waxiness of images that are kind of like fake. That is one of the things that you can prompt for. So all these are links inside the deck you guys have access to as you explore what works. And this is even just, again, a taste of that inside of the language model. Like this is a prompt that says, make a photo at this longitude and latitude on this date in the year 33 AD at this time. So it does the research to find out where in the world is that and what was going on in that year. And it creates a, again, we'll probably fact check it for people that care about whether or not this is worth publishing, but that's a very powerful image model. I didn't give it aesthetic guidance. I didn't give it set direction. I just started working with the information that's in my head, that I'm going for a scene from the Bible that happened in this type of place. I know that it was this spot on a map. Again, it also has access to Google Maps. That's part of the power of what I still think is going to be interesting to see how Google responds to Kling. So this is really just giving you a taste of what is that tool doing. I encourage you guys to see this. I flag here that especially as we start interacting with this inside of FreePic, I was really frustrated last night, and I checked in with my community. Nano Banana Pro is running really slowly on FreePic. It's kind of fucking annoying. As you look at these features I'm talking about, and you're just like staring at your computer saying, why is this going to take 10 minutes just to look at an image? I would encourage you, you can see these 3 featured models inside FreePic. Do you guys see that? They're kind of telling you right away, you're going to do fine with Seadream 4.5, which is the ByteDance model, which is a very, 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 very good model too. It is not inside of a big Gemini 3 model, but somehow it's still competing, and we'll see some differences. And Flux Point 2 is similar. So again, if you guys are just getting through homework this week, or even if you're ever just, and you're frustrated by the way FreePic is accessing Nano Banana Pro, these are solutions to that. And some of the principles we're talking about apply there. I do think once we're all set up on Flow, inside of Google Flow, it works much better. So I think it's just interchangeably as you're using this electricity in different places. I will say, I would even say that inside of Gemini, it's really good, but I find it really annoying that it just doesn't take aspect ratio direction the way that inside of FreePic it does, or inside of Flow it will. So it works much faster inside of Gemini, which should be the native setting for Nano Banana Pro, but it is not as manipulatable or as controllable as it should be. So I'm just flagging my experience with it. As we look at this, okay, so let's take a look at the way this works. So let's do this inside of, let's try it inside of FreePic. Let's see. All right, do we want to stay with Pigman, or does anybody want to start with another image? Actually, maybe should we grab an image from Midjourney and play with it that way? Would that be interesting to see the full flow? All right, let's grab one of these. This racetrack's super weird. Do we want one of these? I mean, I'm kind of curious about the origami look. Should we see if it works? Yeah? Does it do one of these grab anybody? Maybe this one? I'm actually really curious. All right, so from here, let's say I'm happy with the image. I can then save it. So anytime you're done with a Midjourney image, you do need to save it. You can also choose to upscale it there. There's a little bit of an upscale. You will probably eventually want to upscale. But let's grab this Pigman Farm. This might be a bad idea because it's such a weird image. So I'm going to go here. Let's see how we can start manipulating it here. And then you'll see that it's very different from what we were doing before. So I'm going to select Nano Banana Pro. I really hope it's running better than it was last night. We're going to have 3 choices here. And again, this is a uniqueness of FreePic. FreePic does let me choose a style prompt. So again, if we were never inside of Midjourney and we wanted to do that style game, I can select styles here. And again, they have pre-selected styles, and they can say, maybe you like one of these, or I can select a reference image. So that same thing that we were doing inside of Midjourney, where I like something and I like the look of it, I can bring it in as a style reference. And it's another way to speak to it of what I'm going for. So if anybody's not into Midjourney, this is another place to have that style control. I'm going to skip it because we already have style cooked into our image. I'm going to upload that pig face dude. Where is he? There he is. All right, I'm going to bring him in. All right, and then as we spend time in the image generation, this is another place, the character work we were doing last week. I can also pick characters. And again, we learned a little bit about how to train a LoRa last week, so we can reference last week's lesson on if we're still playing with inserting characters. But these are the 3 choices that FreePic gives you. So here we are, we're looking at that image. Among the things we can do, I'm just going to reference kind of I can transform this environment. So that's something that we can do with Nano Banana Pro. So let's go back here and let's say, make this daytime. Literally that simple. And there's this option here that says AI prompts. These are ways that you can have it sort of prompt for you, but I'm just going to go for it. And let's see if it's running super slow. It's supposedly less than a minute. I'm going to do it in the other tools just to show you, so we can even compare and contrast as we go. I'm going to do it with Seadream, and I'm going to do it with Flux. And maybe we'll see which one we like the best. So these are 3 different generations of the same prompt, but again, we're now into this thing of like we're prompt editing. You know, we're not doing like photoshopping. We're not doing like mid-journey work where I have to kind of feed it kind of visual information. I'm just talking to it. And as you can see here, our first one out of the gate, Seadream was a little bit faster. Horse Race is doing great. And that's how quickly it kept the exact same composition of the image. It did not change any structural pieces of my original choice. And it just literally reinvented the timing of the environment, right? This is Flux doing its thing. I have no idea why this picture is here. But the one right before it was useful. And this is Flux taking the same note. So as you guys, you'll see that image credits aren't as valuable inside of FreePic as video credits. It might be fun for you to try these different models and see which ones you like. I think they've even added in FreePic, they just added a thing where you can try out multiple models. And that's like a quick workflow. And here's poor Nano Banana Pro, still slow to the race. But you can see the effect. And again, you can see the point I'm making is this this idea of this promptability is there. We'll come back to it when Nano Banana Pro is ready. We can do in painting here. Okay, so let's try that out. Okay, there's Nano Banana Pro. All right. I mean, it's a strange image anyway. It's this origami pig. We can all split hairs, but you can see that they all kind of took the same note. I actually kind of like, in the end, Nano Banana Pro, they did a really good job of instinctively adding clouds. There's a lot of depth there. So it did create a more dynamic image, but you guys can choose your own adventure there. One thing that's worth noting inside FreePic, and this will be a different UI inside of Flow, but in FreePic, there's a difference between using Nano Banana Pro as an image generator and using it as an image editor. Okay, so we just went through the quick workflow of taking an image and then prompting it. But if we really want to now do image editing, which is going to be more sophisticated prompting, in FreePic, I have to then select the image and go to edit image. You guys see that? Yep. So in edit image, now we have a different interface, and now I have something that looks kind of like a normal kind of chatbot experience. There's a couple options here. I can do a prompt edit, which means I'm going to talk to it, or I can do a visual thing. And I actually think this is pretty cool. It's like thought bubbles. Right? So I can just take, and this is a FreePic tool. I think there's other tools that do this, but they added this as a UI. So I can say, okay, over here, add a plane in the sky, right? I can say, make this pig blue, okay? I can say, add a tractor in the distance. Okay, so this is a very intuitive way to start prompting your image. I could also do it if I was just in the prompt window. I could try to do that just describing it, but I think this is kind of like an interesting way to just kind of intuitively like look at an image and like, what do you want from it? And then here I have to select the model. Again, we get to choose all these different models. There's Nano Banana Pro. Let's keep going. It seems like something sped up this morning. And just for, I'm going to keep this 1K, but you can see that you can choose up to 4K. In these images, and this is where they're really paying attention to the resolution needs you might have. So those are choices you get. We'll get into more detail in post-production on why those are choices you make, but just for now, I'm gonna do 1K, so it goes a little bit faster. And you can choose, they only give you one image at a time. So we'll do this here, and you can see that's what it looks like as it's pinwheeling. We'll come back to this. Let's see, what other fun things can we do? We can in paint, we can add typography. So we can, you know, actually, let's try something funny. I'm going to edit this image, and I can say, I'm going to visually prompt this. Let's see, have a plane writing in the sky. I love ham. I don't know if it's going to do it, but let's see what happens. So that's my visual prompt. I'm going to select Nano Banana Pro again. Keep it 1K so it's easy. Let's see, but you can see that this is actually historically a big challenge for image models, as they like misspell everything. And sometimes they're even still frustrating. They're not perfect at it. Some of them are a little bit better than others, but this is a feature. Let's see if we get a logo hat. Logo hat with a dog. Let's try this. That looks pretty good. I'm going to download this picture. We're going to put it over here, dog hat. And then we can also, oh, there he goes. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That came out pretty good. Again, you can just see it's very intuitive. It's very conversational. I'm just talking to it. And I really like that visual prompting feature. I think it just gets you out of that, like I'm just prompting it all the time. I'm just sort of like telling it. I'm just talking to it. Let's see how it did. Here we go. We added the plane in the sky. It made the pig blue and it added the tractor. Perfect. Okay. So this is Nano Banana Pro. Midjourney is fucking pain in the ass on this kind of stuff. But you can see that Midjourney got us here. It got us into a very interesting aesthetic. So I think to answer your question, Samuel, did you see how like that's a choice you have? You can create your aesthetic. It would be pretty hard to get this type of aesthetic from scratch in Nano Banana Pro. It's possible. Everything's possible. But does that answer your question from before? Of where do we go next? Okay, so now we're just composing. We're just creating a keyframe ultimately, right? We can. I'm gonna see if I'm gonna put a hat on this guy. I'm gonna save this. The other thing that you probably saw down here is insert image. Okay, you see that third option? So now I can start using visual prompts as well. So I'm going to pick that hat. I'm selecting that hat as a reference. I wonder if it does work that simply. Insert this on his head. I haven't tried this. I wonder what it does.
I think you drag and drop it.
I guess, but it's, I want to say on his head, but it's not letting me. It's funny. It's kind of limited. Let's see. Let's see if it intuitively just puts it on his head. The other version of this is you could do it at the image generation stage. So let's say we're happy with this. So now this is to start showing you, like you'll see a lot of these like Twitter like posts where like I took 14 images and combined them into one. And I just want to show you a taste of like what that means. So I'm going to go back to image generator and I'm going to, again, look where we started. We started with this like nighttime image of this pig. I'm going to lose that as my reference. I'm going to bring this in now. And then you see how this upload thing just keeps repopulating. I can, in theory, and I'm curious of where free pick gets stuck. I could upload, I think, up to 14 things. So I'm going to drop the hat in. And then this is where I can start talking to it. I can say at image, hang on, put at image 2. You see how it's tagged there? So I can say put at image 2 on the pig in at image 1, right? So this is how it starts talking to itself with references. And this is very similar to Kling, by the way. Kling has the same kind of mentality of references and elements, is that the data of the image, or in that case, sometimes the element, which is almost like a LoRa, which we learned last week, in Kling and in this to a degree, they work as sort of like things that it's like manipulating in a 3D world, right? So I'm going to go here. I think we're good. We're inside of Flux Pro. Let me go back to Nano Banana Pro, and we'll see if that works. So then this is starting to show you the idea that you can start throwing assets together. So I could, in theory, just take a picture of myself here. I could take a picture of a blue sky like farmland. I could take a picture of a frog, a picture of a cow, a picture of a person. That's my wife. I could just throw those in as multiple assets. And depending on the specifics of my prompt, it'll just design some combination of all those things with a high degree of accuracy of the same hat, the same pig, all those things into a scene. And that is the power of Nano Banana Pro, of its ability to sort of have that multimodal knowledge of what things look like and the way that they live geometrically and physically inside of a world of an image. So we'll see how that comes back. This is always a fun one. Let's see. We're going to create. We'll save that. So let's take a scene of a inside an empty football stadium. A coach walks around, something like that. So we will select, just for speed, I'll do this there. And actually, as you interact with the other models, you see that some of them give you up to 4 results. I think Google Nano Banana Pro here for some reason only gives you one, but especially with image credits, I would just blow through as many as you want just to give yourself options. So here with Seedream, I can give myself up to 4 for speed. Actually, it's stuck at 2K. So let's go. So we're just gonna have an empty stadium with somebody walking around. There's my guy with the hat. Is this the one? Yeah, so this is the one where I used that prompt, put image 2 on image 1. Remember we walked through that sentence, and it did a really good job of figuring out what the hat looks like. It's consistent with the exact same correct artwork. It sort of fits this strange origami head. I think that came out pretty good. Did it get it right, the other one? Where's the one where we just threw, is it here? I don't know, I didn't see the other one. You had a question, Louis?
Yeah. So in what kind of situation we need to clarify the prompt, like because there are 2 pigs in the picture, when we need to clarify.
There's 2 pigs in the picture?
Yeah.
Oh, well, in this case, it's funny that it figured it out. Isn't that interesting? I just said put it on the pig in image 1. It sort of guessed pretty correctly. So you're right. It could have made a mistake there. I didn't think of that, but that's what I wanted. It knows me. It's like it's inside my head or something. Go ahead, Leon.
I generate a character with that, like give me 2 looks. One, I like the hairstyle. One, I like the outfit. And I actually use it to marry the 2 of them together.
So give me more specific. So what's in your head?
So like in my video, I have the orange cat with the bob, like short bob type hairstyle.
Yeah, and you want to change the hairstyle.
Specifically, like changing, like if they already sped out 2 images from Banana Pro, and I like 2 images of the one character, but I like the outfit of this one and the hairstyle of the other one. How do I measure this?
So we can use this. We can experiment this. If you had specific images, I'd love to do it with you. And we can workshop this stuff. But I would say absolutely, this is the type of thinking, and then it's going to be your ability to prompt it. And I'd even specify you may have more success just like isolating the hair, like almost finding that picture on the hair salon that you like, that like there's Timothy Chalamet's hair or whatever, and just say, I want this hair, and then almost isolate it as specific as possible, and then prompt it, put that hair on this person. And yes, that's what it does.
If Banana Pro is already giving me 2 images of the same character, wouldn't it be easier to ask it to marry the 2 features instead of like trying to isolate it?
I'm saying you could. What I'm saying is you may find better results by being extra specific. Like instead of asking it, again, it's a reasoning model. So I could say Anish and Colton, like put Colton's hat on Anish. I could just do that, but it needs to figure out who Anish is, who Colton is. It needs to make sure that which hat am I talking about? I could say, here's just a hat. Put this on Anish head, this person's head here. That's even more specific. Again, now we're into prompt engineering and a little bit context engineering. It's like the more specific you can be, the more likely your results will be what you want. But what you're describing, it might figure that out. I'm just saying you're relying on its ability to figure it out.
I didn't really understand. So I was like confused because it's like the same character, just like variations.
Right. All right. So first of all, I just wanted to show you that this is like a trick that's often tricky, that like I can have an empty stadium and I can just say, fill it up with a bunch of people. Okay. So that type of power is the tool that you can literally just populate spaces. You can change the weather. You can change day for night. I can start putting football players on here. I can put farm animals behind them. That's the type of control this tool has. Let's take your example. So let's see if I can back into what you're asking. We're going to look at I'm going to clean all this stuff out, and it's just like a woman. I don't know. What do we want to start? What's our base image?
A working woman in an office outfit.
Okay. We're a working class Asian white woman, Spanish woman. I don't know. Anyway.
I was using it on the.
Okay. Working class, white woman, mid 40s, in a sort of in an office place, right? Is she sitting? Is she walking? What is she doing?
Basically standing. Because it should stand there.
Medium shot,
Shot because I want to see all the.
full body shot. Okay, let's see what it gives us. Okay. And again, always keep an eye on which model we're working with, what aspect ratio. And you see that in Animaton Pro, I can't do multiple options. It's only giving me one. Let's see if I can just make this faster. Okay, really glad that literally last night I was just prepping for you guys. It was like 9-minute generations. That's why I threw in that qualifier on Seadream. So I think something was going on that the usage was high. I've done like consulting where I like had everybody download like Kriya or something, and on that day Kriya as an internet stopped working. Like it wasn't even like somebody like all of it, like all across America, Kriya wasn't working, and we had to adapt. So we are dealing with janky stuff. All right, so here's our friends. It's a good starting point. So what do you want to do? Do you want to change your hair? Okay. Okay, so we can, is there a very specific hairstyle you want me to find? And we're like, do that to her? Is that what you'd like to try?
So the whole process was like randomizing it first because I don't have a specific thing in my mind. But then when I see one, I kind of like it. I see one on image 1 and I see the outfit on image 2 and I would say, oh, it's
okay. All right. So let me see if I can approximate what you're doing. So we have this one image, and let's revisit the prompt. Okay. So because the Animaton Pro only giving me one at a time, I'm just gonna throw the other tool on, which gives me 4, and I'm gonna say, give me 4 different hairstyles. Let's see what it does. And again, these are conversational tools. They're not so like stuck. But let's see if it helps. And I'm just trying to find an entry to what you're trying to achieve here. You could just have 4 different existing images that you went on the internet and that hair salon did a good job, that hair salon did good, and you could source it that way, but you're trying to be inspired. You're trying to say, give me some options, right? Okay, let's see how this goes. All right, actually, that's kind of cool. They give you 4 different styles within an image. Okay, so this is another way to get inspiration. They're totally different women. Do you like any of these hairstyles?
The second one on the left, and I want to
yeah. This one? Okay, so here's what I would try. So I'm going to edit image. I'd say, can you isolate the woman second over from the left? Let's see. And I want to pivot from this, but I am starting to show you guys that this is all very intuitive, and you're going to kind of discover, just try talking to it and getting through it. And again, my pushback to you on your first note is you could do it this way, and maybe you like this kind of random throw options at me way, and I want you to find that in these tools. But you also could just specifically know, I found this picture on the internet, or I took a picture of my friend, whatever that actual reference image would be, even more direct. So that's another way to think about this thing you're trying to achieve. So let's see, I tried to isolate that one picture. Okay, so there it is. Now we've isolated her. I'm going to save it. Okay, so now I've allowed the internet to inspire me with a tool, and now I'm going to go back to image generator, and I'm going to say I'm going to use her as a reference. That's at image 1. I'm going to use her as a second reference, and I'm going to say, can you grab the hairstyle from at image, what is it, 2? Okay, and apply it to at image 1, right? And I'm gonna even say more specific, apply it to the woman in case it just creates a floating hairstyle in at image 1. Let's try that. And I'm gonna use Seadream because it's faster. And I'm gonna give myself 4 options. But this is how I would, again, there's a lot of problem solving here. None of these things are like all users manuals, but as you understand it's conversational, it knows how to interact multimodally, it looks at other images and knows how to instinctively use a reasoning instinct of hair goes on heads, hat goes on the pig that sort of looks like a person. Like, it's doing a lot of work for you. Again, it figured out what writing in the sky looks like, right? Okay, there's your hairstyle. But I'm saying I would have just gone and found that hairstyle on the internet and just said, put that hair here. You want it. I want to discover that. I want to be inspired. So we even asked it, give me some options. Okay. And now what we'll see here is that's her. Okay. That's her face. That's her position. That's the way she's holding a notebook. And after all that work, finding these random fake humans on the internet. It got me her exact face, that exact same notebook, because I really liked this scene and world that I built, and I changed her hair. And it figured out lighting on that hair. It figured out the way that hair sits behind somebody's ear. Again, don't take for granted how much it's doing. It's super impressive on how it's able to just take an idea in your head and say, how about this? Okay, is this helpful to for everybody else to almost like imagine there isn't like one way to do this, but there's a way to interact with this tool to get the results you want. Yeah. Useful challenge. Thank you for bringing that up. So he talks about populating scenes. You could, and I'm throwing, we did it out painting in Midjourney. I've given you a sense of this idea that you can throw up to 14 inputs in. We can spend time there, but I want to zip to the last tool here. Ground view reconstruction. This is like that idea of those like longitude and latitude numbers. Like you can literally like just like grab data from the internet and create spaces. So that's that example that we saw before. So these are all different things that I would encourage you guys to play with. Let's talk about style consistency for a second. We've seen this a few times, but I just want to make sure it's setting in. If I spent all this time in Midjourney creating an image, I didn't just get a pig face. I got a vibe, I got a look, I like that lighting, I like that texture. Again, I can then use that in a tool like FreePick or in Flow as a reference. I just have to tell it, use this image as a style reference. So for example, if I go through my history last night, as I was prepping this exact point for you guys, I have this picture of, that I just created, just this random thing I made on Midjourney of this weird like bayou scene with this very extreme color and painter look. But I just wanted to pick an aesthetic, again, just to go back to the thing I'm trying to establish as one of your choices here. So I created this aesthetic of Franz Kafka like rowing a boat inside of the bayou. Okay, but I just want that vibe. I just like that look. For now, I just like it as a style. So then I said, okay, I want to apply that look to this, to the idea of a woman walking on the beach. So all I gave it was then two references. I gave it this image that I have from a previous generation of, where is she? This woman. So I grabbed this image of just a woman walking on the beach, and I said, use this as a style reference. And I'm just showing you all the options that I went through until I landed at something I like. So you guys are getting the principle. I'm giving it a frame that I like, woman walking on a beach. And then I said, but I really want this aesthetic that I like a lot, that I've spent a lot of time defining as the look of my film. The first one it gave me kind of sucks. It doesn't look painterly. And this was me uploading the reference, and I just threw them together. Okay, then I tried to get more specific, and I started playing with the other tools. That was with Nano Banana Pro. It wasn't very good. I then did it with Seedream. Now you're starting to see the difference of what the different models do. So that's why I'm encouraging you to become familiar with the different models. Sometimes just play with the one that speaks to you. I mean, Nano Banana Pro, it's almost like a modality. It happens to be a place so you can do almost all your work, but you might like the Seedream output, but better. I might want to start building my movie off of this scene. Okay, Flux 2 gave me, again, I don't know who that is. It always likes to just throw a little wild card, but it did give me this. Which is a slightly muted color, which again, to your point, Leon, maybe I just want options. Maybe I like this process that I'm not so committed to what I'm going for. As I kept playing with it, I then tried this other technique. Okay, so that's using it as a style reference. Then I did this other thing where I went into Gemini, and I did this, and this you can do in ChatGPT too. I said, that image, again, that image that I showed you guys of the strange bayou, and this is language that I'll drop and paste, but it's just, do you guys know what a JSON is? Okay, JSON's like a word that AI people suddenly know what it means. I don't actually. Who's the smart person that knows what JSON stands for? Anybody? It's not me. I always have to look it up. JSON, what does it stand for? It's like JavaScript. You know, come on, Gary. You're like quizzing me right now. I know, but what does JSON stand for? Yeah, see, even all of us don't know. I love it. Gari's the smartest person in the room, by the way. You should talk to her later. She has a really interesting company. The point is that JSON's become this. It's basically a very structured bit of computer speak, and it's become a very popular tactic. It's not the only, but it's another way to say I like this image. And I'd say you may even have a lawyer that encourages you to think this way, that maybe Midjourney is being sued and I shouldn't be using images from Midjourney, but I really like the journey that I just went on Midjourney to define the look of my film. So I might say, please extract the JSON prompt for the style and aesthetic of this image. I'm saying, computer, can you look at this image and give me computer speak that I can talk to this other robot over here to replicate the style and vibe of this. So I don't even have to use data from that nasty machine called Midjourney if I have a lawyer that makes me feel that way. But regardless of my silly story, I'm telling it to interpret image data and convert it into text that another computer can understand. So then now I have this code-looking language here, and you can see that it's basically just a structured prompt. This isn't that fancy, but it's a very specific way of breaking data information into something that I can then reuse. So then I have this language, which basically speaks to that aesthetic. And now when I go back to free pick, I'm using that, and you can sort of see it here. I said woman on the beach. I didn't reference the other image. I just said woman on the beach, and I dropped in all of that JSON prompt. And there's a different way of looking at the same aesthetic. And for what it's worth, that works in Seedream. I did the same thing with like the prompt was 3 guys pulling a rowboat using that same prompt. Right, this one's in Seedream as well. I did this in Flux. Flux, it works as well. And you can see that Flux has an aesthetic. It seems to be a little bit more muted. It doesn't have as saturated colors. But again, I'm showing this to you as another technique to have style consistency. But sometimes it's an image you're referencing, sometimes it's text prompting. And again, for some of the much more elaborate kind of open source models, some people prefer this. But again, this is in the deck, but I'm showing to you as these are 2 techniques to have consistent style. You can either use the image or you can grab the JSON prompt. And again, that JSON step is just any LLM will do it for you. That's not some magic trick. Let's see, so we're getting through this stuff. Let me see if I can get to okay, bonus level. All right, we're gonna get a, we're good on time. I think we're gonna get a cool demo from the Google folks on Genie. I think we're trying to schedule that soon. I don't know how much there is to demo. It's just kind of like, it's mostly obvious, but it seems like it'll be cool to hear from them. I want to hear the scientists. Do you know what Genie is? Have you seen that yet, Alex?
I know this one.
So I don't want to spend time on it because I haven't yet lit up my Flow account to use it. And maybe we'll play with it next week. But instead, I want to show you guys.
Ultra, if you want
You do it? Yeah. I just want to show Marble because this is more relevant. So Marble, let's see what this was literally $1 at one point. Let's see if my plan is still up. So Marble's really cool. Does anybody know what a Gaussian splat is? That's a weird word. What's a Gaussian splat?
A filter. Gaussian is a type of filter, right? That creates a.
Yeah, they took it away. Gaussian splat is a new type of kind of like photogrammetry and also videogrammetry, which are other big words. People used to do really, really intensive, high data level, very heavy file structure ways to sort of scan the 3D of a room. So when you think about has everybody seen the movie The Matrix? Do we know what bullet time is? Is that a movie? Is that a thing that people start? So that idea that when Neo falls backwards and the camera falls around, okay, well that's just literally a bunch of cameras swirling, and the only data you have is that camera swirl. The way that Gaussian splats work as a still image and as a video technology is that they're actually giving you full data of that 3D space. Okay, so that means that as Neo's doing this, I can also zoom in on his eyeball. I can look at him from a low angle. I now have like almost Unreal Engine level, video game level agency in terms of what I want to do with that image. Gaussian splat is a new type of technology. It's called point clouds. It's a different type of data that's actually very lightweight, and that's why it's very popular, is because it's become a very nimble solution for this thing that used to be very intensive. And they have that's 3D GS, 3D Gaussian splats. You may see 4D Gaussian splats. That's they've added time as the dimension. What that means is you can do the same thing with video, and we can spend more time on it. But Marble is one of these tools. When they launched this during my last class, they did have a $1 version for the Pro plan. So if anybody's really excited about this, it does cost a little bit of money. But I just want to show it to you. The nice thing about it is that when you go into Marble, they actually have loaded up a bunch of worlds. So you literally could just tap into their world. So for anybody that's super busy, I'll say busy, meaning maybe they're not doing all the work that we're asking them to do, and they just want to do an amazing video next week. This is one solution to you. You could just click on one of these worlds, and when I click into it, you see those little spots? Those are the point clouds. It's almost like showing you the way it works. And if anybody's ever used a PC to play video games, arrows, right? I can also use the mouse. Okay, so obviously it has a video game look. right? But the point is that all of these are worlds, okay? Here's like somebody's house. So let's say you're just trying to do a scene in an apartment and you don't have the time to go to Midjourney to build anything. You could just go here and just stage a scene here. And I'm using that word intentionally. You can stage in these worlds. And I think that to me is the mindset here. And what I would consider doing is, let's say you built this, and I'm going to show you how to build here. But let's say you really like this. You see this download button. One of the options is take a screenshot. Okay. So now I could just screen grab this, and then that becomes a reference in Nano Banana Pro. Okay, and then now I can take my character that I built last week, or I can take that pig origami guy and I can figure out what it looks like that he's lounging across this couch. Nano Banana Pro will be my partner to marry those elements. But the beauty of this is these are pre-built worlds. It's like when you go to those places in LA that they're just like these endless sets. I think we have some of them here in USC, but these places that you can just start like shooting, this is like that. What's more interesting is that you can build these. Okay, so I can create here. So here I can insert 2D inputs or 3D inputs. So we can spend a lot of time here. This tool is fucking amazing. Like, and then there's this is so like groundbreaking stuff. There's an amazing researcher called Dr. Fei Li from Stanford. She's the big brains on this. It's super fun stuff. And there's links to this in the deck to learn more about it. These are links from Tim Simmons, the funny guy that I keep mentioning. He has a really great tutorial. And then this guy, Tech Hala, who I think's a bit of a mixed bag, but he does a really good job of creating sort of tutorials. So this is very literally him using World Labs. You'll notice him spending a lot of time talking about Higgs field. You don't need Higgs field. You can use FreePic for what he's doing. But the point is he took this backdrop for his world here. That's one of these. When we go here and we go to explore, this was let me see if I can just find it. It used to be the first one on here. I can't find it, but it's literally just one of these worlds. And he just did exactly what I just described to you. He screen grabbed it, he married it to Nano Banana Pro, and then he created this entire scene with the exact same tools you guys have access to. So it's a pre-built world in some cases, or a world that you built. As you interact with the tool, you'll see that I can take that Midjourney image that I captured, or I can take 4 of them that all point in different directions, because me and Nano Banana Pro took my Midjourney image and gave me 4 different points of view of a POV, and then I inputted them here, and it gave me a 3D world that I can start maybe making video games in if I want to. I can make VR experiences with this, or I can start building a set for my movie.
You could film your own like house.
You would load up images on that and then load them in here. So yeah, real estate people are using this for sure, or versions of this technology. Gaussian splat stuff is mental. And then this is apparently new. You can do, I can bring in 3D input. When you go through this, you'll see that that's all the outputs. I mean, there's amazing tutorials on this. I'm just giving you the specific application for how you would use this as a set in like a 2D movie, which is what we're mostly doing here. I lump this in here with Genie 3 because that's the other utility people are using Genie 3 for. So if you guys seen the videos of Genie 3 or Project Genie yet, there's a lot of these. This is actually, that's a good one. This is a good example. So this is what is going to come with your Ultra plan, guys. So this is pretty fucking cool. So this is the type of you can see that sort of video game motion where you can create a setting. In this case, they generated a subway world, and they, instead of a person walking like in Grand Theft Auto, they decided it's a box of cigarettes. It's imperfect. The text is weird, but like this is, if you're not keeping up with it, this is generating images in real time. That's not a world that somebody created that we're walking through. It is generating every one of those frames in real time. It's a generative interactive environment. It's very beta, but you guys are gonna have access to this. I could easily see this class completely losing interest in movies and just wanting to figure out what this is for, because I think that's what a lot of people are doing. I would encourage you at least to think about this, of what I just said, of how does this become a film set for you? How do you quickly create a world in Tunisia or wherever instead of having to travel there? Mandalorian's been doing this for a while. They just have big giant stages for it. You're now getting to at least get the frames to build keyframes back in Animator Pro, or you're going to maybe output video from this because your movie You can do a third person here where we're following a character, or you can do POV. I haven't fully played with this yet. I'm just pointing at this, that this is another world building tool, that just thinking beyond where we started with aesthetics, where Nano Banana Pro is giving us abilities to manipulate stills. We're now getting to the point that that's something we can do with video in some pretty radical ways. The other thing that's kind of clever, this is an old tutorial from Curious Refuge that I've heard. Here they're actually referencing Runway. And to Runway's credit, they were doing this type of like multimodal stuff first. It just wasn't very good. But this is kind of an interesting hack where you can actually just go on Google Maps and just grab the same way you guys like want to know what that storefront looks like before you go there. You can just screen grab the world off of Google Maps and similarly screen grab it, bring it into Nano Banana Pro. And again, you'll probably at first be like, it kind of looks like shit and it's like the pixelation's bad. You're still going to prompt it to upscale. You're going to prompt it to maybe have a different texture. You're going to play with it. And I would encourage you to watch these tutorials to see how other people have played with it. But I'm just trying to give you guys this mindset is like on the front end, you can just spend a lot of time mid-journeying things. I would at least think about Midjourney as an aesthetic, but then you can start really getting creative on what other inputs start to feed what's in your head or what you want to experiment with or what you want to explore as you start building what at its core, until we just skip everything like Lewis is going straight to Kling 3, is we're doing keyframes, okay? Like at some point, this is all the business of keyframes, which if you're, calling back what we normally do in filmmaking is we're creating storyboards. Those are tools for our DP and our production designers to know what we're going for. We're very much now at the point that we're creating the animation cell. This is one more trick. I just threw it in there because I threw it last week. If people are really clever, like virtual production people, one of the things you can do inside of Nano Banana Pro is you can prompt it to give you a depth map. You see this? So this may not mean anything to anybody in this room, but if you're a clever kind of, sort of a VFX person, you'll know that this is a pretty interesting output. I can give it like an image, like, where'd it go? Maybe I did. It's not showing me the original, but you can see it in the sample they gave you here, that I can take this image of like this guy playing chess and it'll create this depth map information slide, which is very useful for like a VFX workflow, whether you're taking that into After Effects or elsewhere. That becomes very valuable data as I then reskin it with a new character. He's changed a chessboard into knobs on a DJ board. This is another thing that Nano Banana Pro can do for you. It can sort of unpack the data of the image you're looking at, and you can take it into other workflows that might be native to you. This actually is on the edge of my kind of, I tried to play with it last night. I didn't get good results, but the post that this is linked to gives you some guidance if this is exciting to anybody. But I'm just, again, showing you the capabilities of Nano Banana Pro that we're still kind of figuring them out. Inside of FreePic, while we're doing all this, I just want you guys to see the things that are unique to their tool. I think I pointed to this before. They have a few things that I think are clever as you guys start world building. They have this change camera feature, okay? So this means that I can, let's say I'll bring in, this one we want to bring in. Let's say I bring in this guy, okay? And then now with this, I think it's a pretty clever UI. So this thing here, I can start going high angle. Do you guys see that? I can change the camera positioning here. I can also use these things. I can zoom in and out. It's just Nano Banana. You could prompt this. You could tell it, do this, do that. But the fact that they've created a UI that is that kind of intuitive of like, here's what I would do with my camera, and then you can generate from here. So sometimes as you say, give me another camera angle, you can slot machine that, and there's another feature we'll look at. You can also be this intentional. So again, I'm always trying to push us back to like, how do you as a director insert your free will? Like, where's your intention on here, and where are the opportunities for that? You may just be dazzled by what it does on its own. And again, I think what Lewis showed us today shows us what going full speed on this can look like. But if anybody goes like Leon, like, I want this, I want that, these are the entry points. Yeah, do you have a question? So here's what it looked like. That's a generation of what I just did. In FreePic, you see this All Tools button. I'd say my biggest critique of FreePic is the UI is like a minefield. It's just, you're just running around. But here in All Tools, it's this change camera. Do you guys see it? You can see they have things like skin enhancer. You can play with all these. They're all kind of intuitive, but I think change camera is pretty clever for what we're learning today in terms of your ability to say, I kind of want a different angle of that. Just one. The other one is this thing called variations, which really pushes us to where we're going to start going next week. But this is, they've, one of the big Nano Banana discoveries of last year, this idea of creating a cinematic grid. I think I mentioned this to you guys, that I can take like a shot of a niche and I can just say like, give me 9 different angles of a niche, and it'll just figure out the world. And it's not perfect, but it's pretty good in terms of your ability to just suddenly have different angles of the same scene. The nice people at FreePick have taken that capability that is mostly lived. And I can show you, when this first came out last November, people were just cutting and pasting these like long ass like prompts that are just like, nobody writes like that. It's just like computers talking to each other. They've created this interface that now when you go to, again, all tools, you see variations, Leon, and everybody. You guys see that? So when I go to that feature, they've created a number of modalities. One of them is reframe, which is very literally create different angles and perspectives of your image. They also have storyboard, which is actually like even more clever. It's saying, take this image, and in my prompt, I can kind of give it a story of what happens in this scene, and it'll just start moving through time and kind of imagine those frames. Again, it's doing it for you. That's either exciting for you or strange, but that's what this feature is. And then people is pretty interesting. I can give it an image of a niche, and it can say, here's a bunch of ethnicities, if that's interesting. We can change your expressions, which might be more interesting. And then we can change your age. And it just literally like mass runs Nano Banana on a prompt. And you just get a bunch of options, which might be useful as you think about this as a directing tool. I think the reframe one is probably most useful to at least get like a dynamic movement on a moment. So I could get like, think about this high angle shot I have here and the way I might combine that with like a over the shoulder shot, and it just will create that start and end frame. So again, this is mostly what we're going to look at next week, but it is a product of Nano Banana Pro. But I insert it just so you see where we're headed. Your homework, we're going to send you flow coupons. Use them, please. What's the main thing we're not going to do? No US emails. Please don't get stuck in that rabbit hole. And also use your judgment on when you want to click the coupon to start. And then you'll also have an 11 Labs coupon. So I think what I would love you to try, maybe take the character you created last week. Again, Midjourney is an additional cost. I think it's worth $10, but that's me. Make sure you hit monthly, not yearly. But maybe go through this flow for yourselves and create like a world of a scene, environments, try to get a consistent style. Look, you could skip all of this and just go to a Kling 3.0, and it's happening. I just want to see what happens when you guys have this much control. And I do think like Kling and Veo just kind of give you like what the world looks like. I want to see if you guys can do something as interesting as Nice Aunties did, of just something really imaginative and different. I want to see what that feels like for you to get to play with stuff that unusual. But we will use the really basic start and end frames. I think you guys have already started playing with this. Just you could just deliver a storyboard, and we could just look at storyboards next week. But I would go ahead and try to find one of these models when you're in video inside of, and actually you could go ahead and do this in Flow too. Flow has start and end frame. You could use FreePick, or inside of Flow, it looks like this. We're going to spend time with Flow next week. But you see this start and end frame UI here? So just see what happens as you start playing with creating a sequence with these worlds, and let's see what it looks like if we have our own kind of unique world you created. Is there anything else today? Yeah, and that's a little bit for that. How do we do today? Too fast, too slow? Why are we still talking about some of these things that we'd rather just talk about Kling 3? How are we feeling? Thumbs up, Hideo? Thumbs up. Cool. Thanks, guys. Alex, thank you. I wish I didn't talk so much. We should have just heard from you the whole time.
No, this is, fantastic for me to be listening.
Yeah, you're also very welcome all the time. Did you hate any of this, or do you like any of this?
No, there's a lot that relates. We're using AI completely in the class for the world building.
Amazing.
But over a period of weeks.
Yeah.
And mostly it's build the reasons for the world's existence, and then have that be the prompts and the values and set.
So previs mostly, in terms of before you go and build the actual set?
Yes,
or?
devis, I would say.
Oh, wow.
Pre-store. But it's it's this balance of the world is an influence on the narrative as the narrative is an influence on the world, and that balance, but also the whole class works on one class for the whole, I mean, one world for the whole.
I love that. And again, I'm in very how-to tutorial mode today, especially as we revisit these themes. If you're welcome to come up whenever, as often as you want.
But these tools
obviously.
totally open up what we can do.
But in terms of that point you just made of like, okay, now that we know how to do this, how does this actually go back to my script? I'd love you guys to tap into Alex's brain.
Anytime I'm
Yeah.
very happy to.
Amazing. What a resource this building is. It's incredible. I feel very lucky to be here. Thank you guys. I hope you have a great weekend. But more adventures next week. I'm sure some crazy ass thing will happen and we'll all be like, what are we still